My future mother-in-law told me smart women protect themselves and handed me a prenup that left me with nothing. I was 24, sitting in Vivian Hartwell's sunroom during what I thought was a casual brunch. Her son Theo and I had been together for 3 years. We just announced our engagement the week before. The prenup was in a leather portfolio, professionally printed, already notarized. She slid it across the table with manicured nails and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Nothing personal, dear," Vivian said, sipping her mimosa. "Just protecting what our family has built over 4 generations." I read through it slowly while she watched. In the event of divorce, I'd leave with exactly what I brought in, which was my student loan debt and a 10-year-old Honda. Everything earned during the marriage would remain Theo's, including any business I might start, any inheritance I might receive, even gifts given to me. I'd have no claim to the house we'd buy together, the children we'd raise together, or the life we'd build together. "Where's Theo?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. "At the office. He already signed his copy." She refilled her glass. "Smart boy, my son. Knows how to protect himself." I should mention that I'd put Theo through his final year of business school. I'd worked 2 jobs while he focused on his studies and networking. I'd paid our rent, bought our groceries, and covered his car insurance when his startup failed. The startup I'd helped him launch with my savings. I signed the prenup that afternoon. My hand didn't shake once. 2 weeks later, I started transferring money. Not stealing, just quietly moving my paychecks into an account Theo didn't know about. I kept contributing to our joint expenses, but everything extra went into my escape fund. I smiled at Vivian during family dinners. I played the grateful future daughter-in-law. I attended her charity galas in dresses I couldn't afford. 6 months before the wedding, Theo's company got acquired. The payout was $4.3 million, and he was ecstatic, talking about the house we'd buy, the honeymoon in Bali, the nursery we'd design. I congratulated him and went to work on my plan. I'd been documenting everything. Every text where Vivian instructed Theo on financial decisions, every email where she directed him to hide assets, every recorded conversation where she coached him on keeping me dependent. Turns out Vivian had been orchestrating more than just a prenup. She'd been systematically ensuring I'd be trapped. The real shock came when I hired a forensic accountant. That startup Theo claimed failed? It hadn't. It had been quietly profitable for 2 years, with all proceeds funneled into offshore accounts in his and Vivian's names. Money I'd helped seed, money they'd hidden while I worked myself to exhaustion. I called off the wedding 3 days before the ceremony. Theo was devastated, begging me to reconsider. Vivian showed up at my apartment with her lawyer, demanding I return the ring, compensate them for wedding expenses, and sign an NDA. Instead, I handed them my own leather portfolio. Inside was everything: the hidden accounts, the systematic financial manipulation, the offshore transfers, and my lawyer's letter outlining the fraud case I was prepared to file. We sat in my living room, the same one I'd furnished while Theo claimed poverty, and watched Vivian's face drain of color. "What do you want?" she asked finally. I smiled, the same smile she'd given me in that sunroom. "Smart women protect themselves," I said. "I'm protecting myself." That's when Theo's phone rang. He answered, his face going pale as he listened. When he hung up, his hands were shaking. "That was my lawyer," he whispered. "The acquisition is being investigated. Someone filed a report about fraudulent asset disclosure." Vivian's eyes snapped to me. I kept my expression neutral. "That's unfortunate timing." "You," Vivian hissed. "You did this." "I protected myself," I corrected. "Like you taught me." The truth was more complicated than they knew. When Theo's company was being acquired, the buyer had required full financial disclosure. Theo had submitted documents that were, let's say, creatively edited. He'd omitted the offshore accounts, the hidden startup revenue, and several other assets that Vivian had helped him conceal over the years. I'd simply sent the acquiring company an anonymous tip with copies of the real financial records. "The acquisition contract has a fraud clause," Theo said, his voice breaking. "If they find intentional misrepresentation, they can void the entire deal and sue for damages." "How much?" Vivian demanded. "Triple the acquisition price, $12.9 million. The color that had drained from Vivian's face earlier, it didn't come back. "You can't prove we knew about this," she said, turning to me. "You have nothing." I opened my laptop, pulled up a video file, hit play. It was from 8 months ago. Vivian and Theo in his apartment, which I'd paid for, having a conversation I'd recorded with a camera hidden in the smoke detector I'd installed after the carbon monoxide scare. "The acquisition team will do due diligence." Vivian's voice came through the speakers. "You need to move the overseas accounts before they look. And for God's sake, don't mention the startup to anyone. If they find out it's been profitable, they'll want to include it in the valuation." "But that's fraud," Theo said on the video. "It's strategic asset management," Vivian replied. "Your father built this family's wealth by knowing when to be honest and when to be smart. The Hartwells didn't get rich by playing fair." I paused the video. I have 47 hours of recordings like this, plus emails, plus text messages, plus bank records showing exactly where every hidden dollar went and when. Theo looked like he might vomit. Vivian stood up. "Name your price." "I already did. It's all in the settlement offer my lawyer outlined." She grabbed the portfolio, flipping through pages with shaking hands. I watched her face as she read, watched her absorb what I was demanding. $2.1 million. Exactly half of what Theo's acquisition had been worth before I torpedoed it, plus compensation for the 3 years I'd supported him, plus damages for fraud and financial abuse, plus my legal fees. "This is extortion," she spat. "No," I said calmly. "Extortion would be if I threatened to release these recordings publicly, or send them to the SEC, or share them with your country club friends, or post them on social media with an explanation of how the Hartwell family fortune was really built." I leaned forward. "This is a settlement offer. You have 48 hours to accept." After that, I file both the civil fraud case and a report with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And then all of this becomes public record. Vivian's lawyer, who'd been silent this whole time, cleared his throat. Mrs. Hartwell, I strongly advise you to consider this offer seriously. You're fired, she snapped at him. Actually, he said, standing up and gathering his briefcase, I quit. I'm not going to prison for you. He looked at me. Smart move with the recordings. Legally obtained since it was your apartment. Washington is a one-party consent state for recording. Everything here would be admissible. He left. Vivian and Theo sat in my living room, the same room where Theo had proposed to me a year ago, where we'd hosted dinner parties for his business school friends, where I'd cried myself to sleep so many nights while he was working late. I loved you, Theo said quietly. No, I replied. You loved what I did for you. You loved having someone to pay your bills and stroke your ego and make you feel like a success. You loved having a future wife who wouldn't question you because she was too busy working to keep a roof over your head. That's not fair. You want to talk about fair? I worked 60-hour weeks while you networked at cocktail parties I couldn't attend because I was at my second job. I ate ramen so you could have steak dinners with investors. I drove my car until the transmission literally died so you could lease a BMW to impress your business school classmates. I stood up. I gave you everything, and your mother handed me a prenup that would have left me destitute if I'd been stupid enough to marry you. We can fix this, Theo said desperately. I'll make it right. You'll accept my settlement offer, I interrupted. Because if you don't, you'll be defending yourself against both the acquisition company's lawsuit and federal securities fraud charges. Your mother will likely face charges too. The Hartwell family name that she's so proud of? It'll be synonymous with fraud. Vivian finally spoke. Her voice was ice. You conniving little... Choose your next words very carefully, I warned. Because I'm recording this conversation too. I wasn't bluffing. My phone was in my pocket, recording app running. She closed her mouth. 48 hours, I repeated. My lawyer will be waiting for your response. They left. Theo kept looking back, like he wanted to say something. But what could he say? That he was sorry? That he hadn't meant for things to turn out this way? I didn't care about his apologies. I cared about the $2.1 million. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls. 32 from Theo, 15 from Vivian. I deleted all the voicemails without listening. My lawyer called at 9 a.m. They want to negotiate. No negotiations, I said. Full amount, or we proceed with legal action. They're claiming they can't access that much cash quickly. They have 48 hours. They'll figure it out. What Vivian and Theo didn't know was that I'd also sent a courtesy email to Theo's father, Richard Hartwell. He'd been traveling in Singapore for business during all of this. The email included highlights from the recordings and a polite note explaining that I was giving the family a chance to resolve this privately before it became a legal matter. Richard called me at 2 p.m. that afternoon. I'm impressed, he said without preamble. Excuse me? My wife is a shark. My son is soft. You played them both perfectly. He paused. I'm wiring you the full settlement amount today. Consider it done. Just like that? Just like that, but I have one condition. My stomach tightened. What condition? You don't release those recordings. Ever. Not to the SEC, not to the press, not to anyone. You take the money and disappear from our lives completely. And the acquisition investigation? I'll handle it. The company buying Theo's business is one I've done deals with before. I'll make this go away quietly. No fraud charges, no lawsuits, no scandal. How? That's not your concern. Do we have a deal? I thought about it. $2.1 million versus the satisfaction of watching Vivian face federal charges. Money won. Deal, I said. But I keep copies of everything. If your family ever comes near me again, if Vivian ever tries to retaliate, if Theo ever contacts me, those recordings go straight to the FBI. Fair enough. You'll have the money by close of business today. He hung up. At 4:47 p.m., my lawyer called to confirm that $2.1 million had been wired to my account. I sat in my apartment that I'd paid for, that was only in my name, and stared at the bank statement on my phone. 7 figures. More money than my parents had made in their entire lives combined. I'd won. But the story doesn't end there. A week later, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. This is Patricia Chen, a woman's voice unfamiliar. You don't know me, but I know what you did to the Hartwells. My blood ran cold. Who is this? I'm Richard Hartwell's personal attorney. He asked me to reach out to you with a proposal. I already have his money. We're done. This isn't about the settlement. This is about a job offer. I almost hung up, but curiosity got the better of me. What kind of job? Mr. Hartwell was genuinely impressed by how you handled his wife and son. He runs a private equity firm that specializes in acquisitions and restructuring. He needs someone who can do due diligence, spot financial irregularities, and isn't afraid to make hard calls. He wants to hire me? After I blackmailed his family? He doesn't see it as blackmail. He sees it as negotiation. The Hartwell fortune was built by people who knew how to leverage information. His words, not mine. What's the salary? $180,000 base plus performance bonuses, full benefits, your own office. I'd been making $42,000 a year working my 2 jobs. The settlement money would last a while, but not forever. And sitting in my apartment with nothing to do was already driving me crazy. I need to think about it. Of course. Mr. Hartwell is back from Singapore next week. He'd like to meet with you personally. The meeting was at a steakhouse in downtown Seattle. The kind of place where the menu doesn't list prices and the waiters wear better suits than most people wear to weddings. Richard Hartwell was exactly what I'd expected. Mid-60s, silver hair, custom suit, watch that cost more than a car. He stood when I arrived, shook my hand firmly, and gestured to the chair across from him. Order whatever you'd like, he said. It's on the company card. I ordered the most expensive thing on the menu out of spite. He smiled. My wife thinks I'm insane for meeting with you, he said once the waiter left. She wanted me to bury you in lawsuits until you choked on legal fees. Why didn't you? Because you did me a favor. He leaned back. Vivienne has been poisoning Theo for years, turning him into a miniature version of herself, entitled, arrogant, sloppy. The acquisition deal would have gone through if you hadn't intervened. And 6 months later, the fraud would have been discovered anyway during a routine audit. So I saved him from himself? You saved him from federal prison. The acquiring company was planning to integrate Theo's startup into a publicly traded entity. If they'd discovered the hidden assets after the deal closed, the SEC would have gotten involved. Theo would be facing 20 years minimum. The waiter brought our drinks. I sipped my wine, processing this. By tanking the deal early, Richard continued, you gave me time to clean up the mess. I unwound the offshore accounts, restructured the startup, and paid back the acquisition company for their due diligence costs. Theo's poor, but he's not going to prison. And Vivienne? His expression hardened. Vivienne is being strongly encouraged to retire from all business activities. She'll still have her social clubs and charity boards, but she won't be anywhere near the family business anymore. What about Theo? Theo is going to therapy, and probably business school again, but at a program that teaches ethics this time. He took a sip of his scotch. My son is weak. He always has been. Vivienne knew that and exploited it. She wanted to build a dynasty through him, but all she built was a house of cards. The food arrived. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The job offer is real, Richard finally said. I need someone who can see through bullshit. Someone who isn't afraid to burn bridges when necessary. Someone who understands that loyalty is earned, not bought. Why me? There are thousands of people with actual credentials. Because you outmaneuvered my wife without breaking a sweat. Do you know how rare that is? Vivienne has been playing financial games for 40 years. She's destroyed business partners, buried competitors, and manipulated her way into every major deal I've closed. And you walked into her house, smiled sweetly, and checkmate her in 6 months. He pushed a folder across the table. This is the offer. Take the weekend to think about it. If you're interested, we'll start with a trial project. If you're not, I'll understand, and we'll part ways amicably. I took the folder. Didn't open it. One question, I said. Go ahead. If I'd married Theo, would you have intervened? He considered this. No. I would have watched you get eaten alive by Vivienne and chalked it up to Theo choosing poorly. The prenup would have held up in court. You would have wasted years of your life and walked away with nothing. So what changed? You changed it. You refused to be a victim. He smiled. That's the Hartwell family secret, by the way. We don't win because we're smarter or richer or better connected. We win because we refuse to lose. And you have that quality. I went home and opened the folder. The job offer was even better than his attorney had described. $200,000 base salary, not $180,000, plus bonuses that could push the total compensation north of $400,000, stock options, a company car, and most importantly, complete autonomy in how I conducted my investigations. I called my mom, told her everything. She listened quietly, then said, do you trust him? Not even a little bit. Then why are you considering it? Because I'm good at this, Mom. I spent 3 years documenting evidence and building a case against people who had every advantage over me. And I won. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. She sighed. Just be careful. Men like Richard Hartwell don't offer jobs out of kindness. They see an asset they want to acquire. She was right, of course. But I took the job anyway. My first assignment was evaluating a tech startup in Austin that Richard was considering acquiring. The founder had impressive credentials, MIT degree, successful exits from 2 previous companies, glowing recommendations from well-known venture capitalists. I spent 2 weeks in Austin, interviewing employees, reviewing financial statements, and digging into the founder's background. By the end of week 1, I knew something was off. The numbers were too clean. The growth trajectory was too perfect. The employee testimonials all sounded rehearsed. I hired a private investigator, paid for it out of my own pocket because I wanted to be sure before making accusations. The PI came back with gold. The founder had fabricated his MIT degree. He'd bought it from a diploma mill and hoped no one would verify it. His previous successful exits were actually companies that had gone bankrupt shortly after being acquired, but he'd negotiated his departure early enough to avoid the fallout. And the glowing recommendations? Written by friends who'd been paid to pose as VCs. I presented my findings to Richard. He read through the report, made 1 phone call, and killed the $50 million acquisition that afternoon. You just saved me from the worst mistake of my career, he said. How did you know to look deeper? His story was too perfect. Real success is messy. His wasn't. Richard studied me for a long moment. Vivienne was wrong about you, you know. She thought you were just a gold digger who got lucky. But you're not lucky. You're thorough. There's a difference. My bonus for that project was $75,000. I worked for Richard for 2 years. In that time, I evaluated 23 potential acquisitions, saved the company from 4 disastrous deals, and helped structure 8 successful ones. My total compensation was $1.2 million, not counting the original settlement. I bought a house. Nothing ostentatious, just a nice 3-bedroom in a good neighborhood. Paid in cash, put the rest in investments. And then Vivienne died. It was sudden. An aneurysm. She was at her book club, arguing about the symbolism in some novel, and she just collapsed, dead before the ambulance arrived. I didn't go to the funeral. Wasn't invited, obviously. But Theo called me a week later. I need to see you, he said. No, please, it's important. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him. Coffee shop, public place, afternoon crowd. He looked terrible. Thinner than I remembered, with dark circles under his eyes and a nervous energy that made him seem fragile. Mom left a letter, he said without preamble, for me to give to you if anything happened to her. He slid an envelope across the table. Thick paper, expensive stationery, sealed with actual wax. Very Vivienne. I didn't touch it. I don't want anything from her. She knew you'd say that. She told me to tell you that it's not an apology. It's an explanation. I don't need her explanations. Just read it, please, and then I'll never bother you again. I took the envelope, didn't open it until I got home. Inside was a single page, written in Vivian's precise handwriting. Dear girl, I don't know your name anymore. Theodore refuses to speak it, says it hurts too much. So you'll remain dear girl in this letter, as you were always dear girl to my face while I tried to destroy your future. I'm dying as I write this. The doctors give me 3 months, maybe 6 if I'm unlucky. Cancer, because God has a sense of humor. I'm using this time to settle debts, and I owe you the biggest one. You were right about everything. About the prenup, about Theodore, about me. I did want to trap you. I wanted you dependent and grateful and too scared to leave, just like I was when I married Richard. You want to know the real Hartwell family secret? It's not ruthlessness or strategy or any of the things Richard told you over your steak dinner that I know he bought you. The secret is this. We eat our own. Richard's father destroyed his mother. Richard destroyed me. I tried to destroy you through Theodore. It's what we do. It's all we know. But you broke the cycle. You refused to be consumed. I hated you for that. Genuinely hated you. You represented everything I could have been if I'd been brave enough to fight back. Instead, I became the monster. I became the woman who hands other women prenups and smiles while doing it. The job Richard gave you? That wasn't kindness. That was recruitment. He's grooming you to become what I was. The handler, the fixer, the woman who does the dirty work while the men keep their hands clean. He'll use you up the same way he used me up. And when you're no longer useful, he'll discard you. Run. Take your money and run. Don't become me. Don't let the Hartwells turn you into a weapon. This isn't an apology because I don't deserve forgiveness. This is a warning. The cycle only breaks if you walk away. V. I read the letter 3 times. Then I burned it in my sink and washed the ashes down the drain. 2 days later, I walked into Richard's office and quit. He didn't seem surprised. How much do you want to stay? It's not about money. Everything is about money. Not this. He leaned back in his chair. Vivian got to you, didn't she? The letter. How did you? She told me she was writing to you. Tried to poison you against me even from her deathbed. That was Vivian. Bitter until the end. Was she wrong? He smiled. Does it matter? You've already decided to leave. I want to know. Was she right about you using me? Of course I was using you, just like you were using me. We had a mutually beneficial arrangement. You got money and experience. I got results. That's not exploitation. That's business. And when I stopped being useful, then we'd part ways amicably, and I'd write you a glowing recommendation letter, which I'll do anyway, since you're leaving on your own terms. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out an envelope. Your final bonus. $200,000 for the Austin deal that saved us last quarter. I didn't take it. Keep it, I said. Consider it my contribution to Theo's therapy fund. He doesn't need it. I've already cut him off financially. He's working as a junior analyst at a startup in Portland, making $60,000 a year, living in a studio apartment, learning to budget. Good. I stood to leave. One more thing, Richard said. Vivian was right about one thing. You could have become what she was. Vicious, calculating, effective, but you chose not to. That takes more strength than she ever had. Or less ambition. Maybe. Either way, you'll be fine. People like you always land on their feet. I left Hartwell Equity that afternoon and never went back. For a few months, I just existed. I traveled a bit. Nothing extravagant, just weekend trips to cities I'd always wanted to see. I read books. I slept in. I figured out who I was when I wasn't fighting someone else's battles. And then I got a call from an old friend from college. Diana was working at a nonprofit that provided financial literacy education to women leaving abusive relationships. She was drowning in work and desperately needed help. I can't pay you much, she admitted. Maybe $45,000 to start. But the work matters. These women are trapped the same way you almost were. They need someone who understands. I started the next Monday. The work was hard in a different way than the Hartwell job had been. These weren't billion-dollar deals or corporate espionage. These were women who'd never had their own bank accounts, who didn't know how to read a credit report, who'd been told they were too stupid to handle money and had believed it. I taught them how to budget, how to build credit, how to hide money from abusive partners, how to document financial abuse for court cases. I became the person I'd needed when I was signing that prenup in Vivian's sunroom. A year into the job, one of my clients asked me to testify in her divorce case. Her husband had hidden assets, manipulated financial documents, and tried to paint her as incompetent. Standard stuff. I showed up in court with a 3-inch binder of evidence. Bank statements, property records, business filings, offshore account transfers. Everything the husband had tried to hide, I'd found. The judge awarded my client 60% of the marital assets plus full custody of their kids. Her lawyer approached me after the hearing. You're wasted at a nonprofit. You should be doing this full-time. Doing what? Forensic financial investigation for divorce cases. There are hundreds of women who need what you can do, and lawyers who'd pay serious money for your expertise. I thought about it for approximately 30 seconds. Put me in touch with your firm, I said. That was 4 years ago. Now I run my own forensic accounting firm. We specialize in high-asset divorce cases where one party is hiding money. I have a team of 6 investigators, 3 lawyers on retainer, and a client list that includes some of the wealthiest women in the Pacific Northwest. We don't advertise. We don't need to. Lawyers know who we are. And when a woman shows up to their office with a prenup that leaves her with nothing and a suspicion that her husband is hiding assets, they send her to us. Last month, we cracked a case involving $12 million in hidden cryptocurrency. The month before that, we found a vacation home in the Bahamas that a husband had titled in his mistress's name. The month before that, we discovered a shell company in Delaware that existed solely to hide income from a wife's hair salon business. We win about 85% of our cases. I make more money than I ever did working for Richard, but that's not why I do it. I do it because I remember sitting in that sunroom, reading a prenup that treated me like property. I remember the smile on Vivian's face when she told me I was protecting my family. I remember feeling small and trapped and helpless. I do it because no one should have to feel that way. My office has floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. On my desk is a framed photo of me at 24, the day after I signed that prenup. I look young and scared and determined. Next to it is a copy of the settlement agreement with the Hartwells. $2.1 million, the price of my freedom. Sometimes clients come in and ask me how I got started. I tell them about Vivian and Theo and Richard, about the prenup and the recordings and the investigation, about choosing to fight instead of accepting what I was handed. They leave my office with hope, with a plan, with someone in their corner who knows exactly how the game is played and how to win it. Last week, I got an email from an unfamiliar address. Subject line, thank you. The email was from Theo. I know I have no right to contact you. I know you probably never want to hear from me again, but I need to say this. You saved my life. Not just from prison, though you did that too. You saved me from becoming my mother, from spending my whole life manipulating people and calling it strategy, from thinking that money and control were the same as love. I'm engaged. To someone I met at my therapist's office, actually. She's a social worker. Makes $48,000 a year. She didn't know who the Hartwells were when we met. Didn't care when she found out. We're getting married in a courthouse. No prenup. Just two people who actually love each other. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that you changed my life in ways you'll never fully understand. I hope you're happy. I hope you found what you were looking for. T. I didn't respond. Deleted the email and moved on with my day. But I did think about it. About the boy I'd loved at 21, who'd become a man I didn't recognize by 24. About whether he was genuine or still playing games. About whether people actually change or just get better at hiding who they are. In the end, it doesn't matter. I'm not that girl in the sunroom anymore. I'm not the one working 2 jobs to support someone else's dreams. I'm not the one accepting less than I deserve because I'm afraid to demand more. I'm the woman with the forensic accounting firm and the wall full of victory letters from clients. I'm the woman who teaches other women how to fight back. I'm the woman who knows exactly what she's worth and refuses to settle for less. Smart women protect themselves. Vivian taught me that. And I taught myself what it actually means. Last night, I had dinner with my team. 6 brilliant women who'd all been underestimated at some point in their lives. Who'd been told they weren't smart enough, tough enough, ruthless enough to succeed in a male-dominated field. We toasted to our latest victory. A case where we'd found $8, $7 million in hidden assets and secured full custody for our client. How did you get into this work? Our newest hire asked me. She's 23, fresh out of college, eager and idealistic. I thought about telling her the whole story. About Vivian and the prenup and the 3 years of documentation. About Richard and the job offer and Vivian's warning letter. Instead, I said, someone once tried to trap me. I decided to make a career out of making sure it never happened to anyone else. She nodded, satisfied with the answer. The truth is more complicated, of course. The truth always is. But the simple version is this. I learned to protect myself by learning to fight back. And now I teach other women to do the same. Sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I wonder about Vivian. About whether she meant what she wrote in that letter or if it was one final manipulation. About whether she actually felt regret or just wanted to sabotage my relationship with Richard. I wonder if she'd be proud of what I've become or horrified by it. Mostly, though, I don't think about her at all. I'm too busy building my own empire. One that doesn't require crushing other women to succeed. One that doesn't confuse control with love or manipulation with strategy. The Hartwell family taught me how to win by watching them play dirty, but they also taught me something more valuable, that winning at someone else's expense isn't really winning at all. It's just being alone with your money and your schemes and no one who actually gives a damn about you. I have friends now, real ones, people who knew me before I had money and still want to know me now that I do, people who celebrate my victories and comfort me through my losses, people who see me as more than an asset to be acquired or a threat to be neutralized. My parents are proud of me, though they still don't fully understand what I do. You help women with their divorces. My mom tells her friends. Close enough. I have a life that's mine, built by me, for me, on my terms. And that's worth more than any settlement check or job offer or prenup could ever be. 3 months ago, I got a call from Patricia Chen, Richard's lawyer, the one who'd offered me the job at Hartwell Equity all those years ago. Richard is retiring, she said. He wants to know if you'd be interested in taking over the firm. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Tell Richard thank you for the offer, but I already have a firm, one that helps people instead of exploiting them. He said you'd say that. He asked me to tell you that he's proud of you anyway. Tell him. I paused. What did I want to say to Richard Hartwell? The man who'd given me a chance while simultaneously trying to use me. The man who'd enabled his wife's cruelty while profiting from my response to it. The man who'd seen me as an asset worth acquiring. Tell him I said smart women protect themselves. He should understand what that means. Patricia laughed. He will. Take care of yourself. I always do. I hung up and got back to work. I had a client meeting in 20 minutes. A woman whose husband had hidden a real estate portfolio across 3 states. We'd find it. We always did. Because that's what I do now. I find what's hidden. I expose what's buried. I help women protect themselves from the people who promise to love them, but plan to destroy them instead. It's good work. It's important work. And I'm damn good at it. The prenup Vivian gave me sits in a safety deposit box at my bank. I keep it as a reminder. Not of what I escaped, but of what I became. She wanted to trap me with that document. Instead, she gave me a roadmap for my entire career. Ironic, really. I hope wherever she is, she knows that. I hope she understands that by trying to break me, she made me stronger. By trying to control me, she taught me how to take control. By trying to make me small, she showed me exactly how powerful I could become. I hope it keeps her up at night, though probably not. Women like Vivian never really believed they did anything wrong. They genuinely thought they were protecting their families, maintaining order, preserving what they'd built. They never understood that you can't build anything lasting on a foundation of control and fear. The Hartwell empire will crumble eventually. It always does. Richard will retire, Theo will probably squander whatever inheritance he receives, and the family name will fade into obscurity. But the women I help, they're building something real. They're creating lives where they make their own choices and keep their own money and raise their children to understand that love and control are opposites, not synonyms. That's the legacy I want to leave. Not money or power or a family name that opens doors. Just the knowledge that I helped people protect themselves. That I took what was meant to destroy me and used it to save others. That I looked at a prenup designed to trap me and said, not today, not ever, and meant it. Smart women protect themselves. I'm living proof. This morning, I woke up in my house that I own outright. Made coffee in my kitchen that no one can take from me. Drove to my office in a car I paid for with money I earned doing work that matters. I checked my calendar, 3 client consultations, 2 court appearances, 1 strategy meeting with my legal team, a full day of fighting for women who deserve better than what they've been handed, a full day of being exactly who I was meant to become. I smiled at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The same smile Vivian gave me all those years ago in her sunroom, except mine is real. Because I'm not protecting money or status or a family dynasty built on manipulation and fear. I'm protecting people. And that's the difference between Vivian Hartwell and me. She thought power came from control. I know it comes from setting people free. The phone rang, my assistant with an update on the cryptocurrency case. We found another wallet, she said. Looks like he was moving money through his brother's accounts. Get me the transaction history. I want to see every transfer. On it. I hung up and gathered my files. Time to go to work. Time to do what I do best. Time to protect someone who needs protecting. Because that's what smart women do. We protect each other. And we never ever let anyone hand us a prenup that says we're worth nothing. Not anymore. Not on my watch. I gave my sister the same support she gave me when I was broke, and now she won't speak to me. 5 years ago, I lost everything. My startup failed spectacularly. My apartment lease ended the same week, and I had $400 to my name. I called my sister, practically begging for help. Just a place to crash for a month while I found work. She lived in a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs with her husband, just the two of them rattling around in all that space. I can't enable your poor choices, she said, her voice cold and measured. You need to learn responsibility. You made your bed. She suggested I look into local shelters and actually sent me a link to Dave Ramsey's website. Financial discipline starts with accountability. That month, I slept in my 2004 Honda Civic through a brutal January, showering at Planet Fitness at 5 a.m., applying to jobs from the public library. I ate 1 meal a day, usually dollar menu items. My sister posted vacation photos from Cabo that same week, cocktails on the beach with captions about self-care and living your best life. I clawed my way back, took a soul-crushing sales job I hated, lived with 3 roommates in a basement apartment, saved every penny that didn't go to ramen and bus fare. Within 2 years, I'd paid off my debts. Within 4, I'd started a new company with a former colleague who believed in my vision. Last year, it sold for $2.3 million. My sister's husband left her 3 months ago, cleaned out their joint account and disappeared with his 24-year-old assistant. She lost the house in foreclosure, her car got repossessed, and she's drowning in credit card debt from trying to maintain appearances while her marriage crumbled. She called me crying at midnight. I have nowhere to go. Mom and Dad won't help because they think I was stupid with money. And honestly, they're probably right. She paused, voice breaking. You're my only option, please. I have a 5-bedroom house now. 3 guest rooms sitting empty with fresh sheets and furniture I've never used. I could write her a check for 6 months' rent without even checking my balance. Instead, I said, I can't enable your poor choices. You need to learn responsibility. Then I texted her the exact same Dave Ramsey link she'd sent me 5 years ago. Are you serious right now? She whispered. Dead serious. I learned so much sleeping in my Honda. Character building, really. You'll thank me later. The line went completely quiet for 10 seconds. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm your sister. Neither could I said calmly. But here we are. She hung up. Then came the texts. Novels about family loyalty and forgiveness and how I'm different because I actually have money now. How she was just protecting her marriage back then, and her husband had opinions about freeloading relatives. How cruel I'm being when she's at her absolute lowest point. I haven't responded to a single message. Last week, Mom called. Your sister's living in an extended stay motel on Route 9. This is getting serious. You have the means to help her, and you're choosing not to. So do you, I replied. That's not the point, Mom snapped. You're being vindictive and petty. I'm being consistent, I said. She taught me that family doesn't owe you anything when times get hard. I'm just honoring her philosophy. This morning, my sister showed up at my house unannounced. She looked terrible. Dark circles, unwashed hair, wearing the same jacket I'd seen in her desperate selfies for days. My security camera caught her sitting in her beater car for 20 minutes, clearly gathering courage, before finally walking to my door. When I answered, she wasn't crying. She was angry. You know what the worst part is? She said, voice shaking. I waited. The worst part is that I would have done the exact same thing if our positions were reversed today. 5 years later, I still wouldn't let you stay with me, even knowing what you went through, even seeing how you survived it. That caught me off guard. So why are you here? I asked. Because I needed to tell you that you were right. She laughed. But it was hollow. I was cruel. I was selfish. I told myself I was teaching you a lesson, but really I just didn't want my life inconvenienced. Trevor said you were a loser, and I agreed because it was easier than defending you. Trevor. Her ex-husband's name tasted bitter just hearing it. And now I'm living in a roach-infested room that costs $89 a night and I can only afford it for another week. I'm applying to jobs I'm overqualified for and getting rejected because I've been out of work for 3 years. I eat ramen for dinner. Real ramen, not the trendy restaurant kind I used to Instagram. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. A dim room with water-stained walls, a bed that sagged in the middle, and a tiny microwave on a dresser. I shower at the truck stop down the road because the motel shower has black mold. I do my makeup in a bathroom that smells like diesel and urinal cakes. And every single day, I think about that month you spent in your car. I stayed silent. I used to drive past homeless people and think they must have made terrible decisions. That if they'd just worked harder, been smarter, been more responsible, they wouldn't be there. And now I'm 2 weeks away from being one of them. So you want my pity? No, she met my eyes. I want you to know that you don't owe me anything. You don't owe me forgiveness. You don't owe me money or a place to stay or even this conversation. I came here to tell you that I finally understand what I did to you, and I'm sorry. She turned to leave. Wait, I said. She stopped but didn't turn around. Do you actually understand? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? She turned back and her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. I understand that when you called me that night 5 years ago, you weren't asking me to solve your problems. You were asking for basic human decency from your only sibling. You were asking me to remember that we grew up together, that we used to be close, that family should mean something when everything else falls apart. And I told you to figure it out yourself because it was inconvenient for me, because Trevor thought you were irresponsible, because I'd never struggled, so I couldn't imagine how bad it really was. I told myself I was helping you learn a lesson. She wiped her eyes roughly. But I wasn't teaching you anything. I was just being comfortable and cruel at the same time. And now I'm learning that same lesson in that disgusting motel room. And you know what? I don't feel like I'm growing as a person. I don't feel character building happening. I just feel scared and alone and like I'm drowning a little more each day. I leaned against my door frame. You texted me photos of Trevor's fancy birthday dinner the week I was sleeping in my car. Do you remember that? She closed her eyes. Yes. What was the caption? Blessed beyond measure, she whispered, with a gratitude hashtag. I saw that while I was parked outside a 24-hour diner, trying to stay warm, charging my phone so I could keep applying to jobs. I'd had half a stale bagel for breakfast, nothing for lunch. That photo made me so hungry I felt dizzy. I'm sorry. You commented on my Facebook post asking for help. Do you remember what you said? She nodded slowly. I said tough love is still love, and that you'd thank me someday when you learn to stand on your own 2 feet. 17 people liked that comment, including Mom. She flinched. So here's what I need to know, I said. Are you sorry because you're in the same position now? Or are you sorry because you actually understand that what you did was wrong, regardless of where either of us ended up? She thought about that for a long moment. Both, she said finally. I'm sorry because I'm experiencing exactly what I put you through, and it's hell. But I'm also sorry because even if I'd never lost everything, even if Trevor and I were still together and happy, what I did to you was inexcusable. I just wouldn't have realized it without this happening to me. At least you're honest. It's all I have left. We stood there in the morning sun, 2 sisters who used to build blanket forts and share secrets, now strangers connected only by blood and bitterness. I'm not going to give you money, I said. I know. I'm not going to let you stay here. I understand. But I'm going to do something else. She looked up, confused. I'm going to give you exactly what you gave me, a Dave Ramsey link and the address to the nearest shelter, and then I'm going to watch what you do with it. Because you were right about one thing. I did learn something from that experience. I learned who I was when everything was stripped away. I learned what I was capable of when I had nothing but myself to rely on. I pulled out my phone and texted her the same shelter information she'd sent me 5 years ago. You think you're going to be homeless in 2 weeks. You're probably right. So you have 2 weeks to figure out who you are when you have nothing. 2 weeks to learn what I learned in that Honda. This is cruel, she said quietly. No, I replied. This is fair. Cruel was letting your sister freeze in her car while you sipped margaritas in Mexico. Fair is giving you the exact same chance you gave me. She looked at her phone, at the shelter address, at the Dave Ramsey link. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not as strong as you? Then you'll learn that too. She stood there for another minute, then walked back to her car. I watched her sit in the driver's seat, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Then she started the engine and drove away. Mom called 10 minutes later. Your sister just called me crying. What did you say to her? The truth. She said you're making her be homeless, that you could help her but you're choosing to let her suffer. She made me be homeless, I said. I could have not suffered, but she chose to let me. That was different. How? You were young. You could bounce back. She's older now, more fragile. This is going to break her. Then maybe she shouldn't have broken me first. I didn't raise you to be this cold, Mom said. You raised me to learn from my experiences. I'm just applying the lessons my sister taught me. She hung up without saying goodbye. The next 2 weeks were quiet. No calls from my sister. No visits. Mom stopped reaching out after I refused to engage with her guilt trips. Dad never called. He'd agreed with my sister 5 years ago that I needed to learn responsibility, so at least he was consistent now. I went about my life, worked on my new business venture, had dinner with friends, went to the gym, bought groceries without checking prices, lived in the house my sister had refused to share. On day 14, my doorbell rang at 6 in the morning. My sister stood there in the same clothes, but something was different. She looked clean, her hair was washed, her eyes were clear. I got a job, she said. Okay. It's at a call center. $10 an hour. I start Monday. Good for you. I'm staying at the women's shelter on Oakmont. I have a cot in a room with 5 other women. One of them snores so loud I barely sleep. The bathroom has 1 shower for 20 people, but it's warm and it's safe, and I'm grateful for it. I waited. I applied to 53 jobs in 2 weeks. I got rejected from 52 of them. The call center was the only place that gave me a chance. It's humiliating work for someone with my resume, but it's work. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know I'm doing it. I'm not asking mom and dad for money. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm doing exactly what you had to do. And it's the worst thing I've ever experienced, which means I'm finally understanding what I put you through. Every night at that shelter, I lie awake thinking about how you did this in January. In your car, alone, while I was sipping cocktails and posting about being blessed. She wiped her eyes. I want you to know that I get it now. And I'm so sorry. Not because I want something from you, just because you deserve to hear it. I nodded. Okay, that's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? I don't know. That you forgive me? That we can start over? That eventually we can be sisters again? I don't know if we can, I said honestly. 5 years ago, I learned that family is just a word unless people choose to make it mean something. You taught me that when things get hard, I'm on my own. I can't unlearn that. So we're done? Forever? I don't know. Maybe not. But I'm not going to pretend that your apology fixes 5 years of knowing my sister didn't care if I lived or died, as long as her life stayed comfortable. She nodded slowly. That's fair. You should go. You don't want to be late for your first day. It's not until Monday. Then you should go prepare. She turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, you were the strongest person I knew 5 years ago, and I should have told you that instead of judging you, and you're still the strongest person I know now. After she left, I made coffee and sat in my living room, looking at all the space I had. 3 empty guest rooms, a home office I barely used, a basement that was just storage. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister. Thank you for not making this easy. I didn't deserve easy. I deserved exactly what you gave me. I didn't respond. 3 months passed. My sister texted occasionally with updates. She'd moved from the shelter to a room in someone's basement. She was taking extra shifts. She'd applied for 3 better jobs and got rejected from all of them. She never asked for anything, never hinted that I should help, just kept me updated like she was checking in with a distant acquaintance. Then one night she called. I need to tell you something, she said. What? Trevor contacted me. He wants to reconcile. He says leaving was a mistake, that the girl was just a phase, that he wants to work things out. And he offered to pay off my debts. All of them. Get me back on my feet. Let me move back into a house he bought. Not the one we lost, but a new one. He says we can start fresh. What did you say? I told him to go to hell. I sat up straighter. Because here's what I realized while I was lying in that shelter cot, listening to 5 women snore and cry and pray. I was miserable in my old life too. I just had expensive things to distract me from it. Trevor controlled every dollar, every decision, every moment of my day. I couldn't work because he said it made him look bad. I couldn't have friends he didn't approve of. I couldn't even decorate my own house without his permission. She paused. I thought losing everything meant losing my life. But actually, losing everything meant finally being free. For the first time since I married him, I make my own choices. They're small choices. What shift to work, what room to rent, what to eat for dinner. But they're mine. That's good, I said carefully. I called to tell you that I understand now why you built everything back yourself, why you didn't take shortcuts, why you worked those terrible jobs instead of finding some rich boyfriend to solve your problems. It's not just about the money. It's about knowing you did it yourself. Took you long enough to figure that out. I'm a slow learner, she said. Always have been. We talked for another hour. Really talked, for the first time in 5 years. She told me about the women at the shelter, the ones who'd become unexpected friends, the single mother working 3 jobs, the college student who'd been kicked out for being gay, the elderly woman whose social security wasn't enough to cover rent. They're all just like me, she said. Normal people who got knocked down. Some made mistakes. Some just had bad luck. But none of them deserved to suffer. And neither did you. No, I agreed. I didn't. I wish I'd understood that 5 years ago. Me too. 6 months after that first visit, my sister called with news. She'd been promoted to supervisor at the call center. She was making $50 an hour now. She'd moved into a studio apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was hers. I'm taking you to dinner, she said. Nothing expensive, just Olive Garden. But I want to take you out and say thank you. For what? For giving me exactly what I needed, even though it wasn't what I wanted. We met at the Olive Garden on Thursday night. She looked different. Thinner from irregular meals and stress, but somehow healthier. Like she'd shed something toxic along with her comfortable life. I've been thinking, she said over breadsticks, about that night I called you crying, about what would have happened if you'd just given me money. What about it? I would have taken your money, gotten back on my feet, and learned absolutely nothing. I would have gone right back to judging people for being poor, assuming they just needed to work harder. I would have stayed the same terrible person I was. She broke a breadstick in half, but you didn't let me. You made me live through what you lived through, and now I'm different. I sponsor a woman at the shelter. I volunteer serving meals on weekends. I actually understand what it means to struggle, and I'm grateful for that, even though it was hell. You're welcome, I said. Are we okay? I mean, really okay. I thought about that. About 5 years of hurt and anger. About that Honda Civic and those freezing nights. About her photos from Cabo and her comments about tough love. We're getting there, I said finally. But it's going to take time. I have time, she said. I'll wait as long as you need. 1 year after my sister showed up at my door, we had Sunday brunch together. It was her idea, and she paid. Not because she had to prove anything, but because she wanted to. She'd been promoted again. She was making $20 an hour now and had started taking online classes toward a degree in social work. She wanted to help people like the women she'd met at the shelter. "I've been thinking about having you over to my apartment," she said. "It's tiny and the neighbors are loud, but it's mine. I want you to see it." "I'd like that." "I mean it though. It's really small, like 400 square feet. Your closet is probably bigger." "I don't care about the size." She smiled. "5 years ago, I would have been mortified to have you see where I lived. I would have made excuses, but now I'm proud of it. I earned every square foot of that space myself." "Good," I said. "You should be proud." Mom joined us for brunch the next month. It was awkward at first. She'd sided with my sister 5 years ago and stayed silent during my homelessness. She'd called me vindictive when I refused to help my sister. Now she didn't seem to know where she stood. "I owe you an apology," she said finally. "Both of you, actually. I failed you both in different ways." We waited. "I told myself that not helping you 5 years ago was teaching you responsibility," she said to me. "But really, I was just uncomfortable watching you struggle, so I convinced myself you needed to figure it out alone. And when your sister needed help, I judged her for getting into that position instead of offering support." "Why didn't you help either of us?" my sister asked. Mom looked down at her plate. "Because your father and I had our own financial problems we weren't telling anyone about. We'd overspent for years, trying to look successful. When you needed help, we couldn't afford it without admitting we were broke too. That explained a lot." "We're okay now," Mom continued. "We sold the big house, downsized, paid off our debts, but by the time we could have helped, you'd both already made it through the worst of it without us." "So what now?" I asked. "Now I'm trying to be the mother I should have been before. Better late than never, I suppose." It wasn't a perfect reconciliation. There were still wounds, still complicated feelings, but it was honest, which was more than we'd had in years. 2 years after that morning, my sister showed up angry at my door. We were sitting in my living room on Christmas Eve. She'd brought homemade cookies, not fancy ones, just simple chocolate chip made in her tiny apartment kitchen. "Remember when we used to make these with Grandma?" she asked. "Before she died?" "Yeah. We'd fight over who got to lick the spoon. You always won because you were older." She laughed. "And now you're richer and more successful. Funny how things change. You're not doing too bad yourself. Didn't you say you got accepted into that graduate program?" "Full scholarship," she said proudly. "For my MSW. I start in January." "That's incredible." "It's weird. 2 years ago, I was drowning. Now I'm going back to school to help other people who are drowning. Life's strange like that." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure. Why did you finally forgive me? I know we're okay now, but when did you decide to let it go?" I thought about that. I don't know if I decided exactly. It just happened gradually. Every time you updated me, every time you chose to keep struggling instead of taking the easy way out, every time you showed up and didn't ask for anything. You weren't just apologizing with words. You were apologizing with your whole life. That's all I could do. It was enough. She wiped her eyes. "I'm really glad we're here. Not just in this nice house, though it's lovely, but here, together, after everything." "Me too. Do you ever think about how different things would be if I'd just let you stay with me 5 years ago?" "Sometimes." "What do you think would have happened?" "Honestly, I think you would have lorded it over me forever. Every time we disagreed about something, you would have reminded me of how you helped me when I had nothing, and I would have felt like I owed you for the rest of my life." "You're probably right," she admitted. "I was pretty self-righteous back then. You were terrible." "I was," she agreed. "But I'm better now. At least I hope I am." "You are. You're one of the best people I know, actually." She looked at me in surprise. "Really? Really? Because you didn't just say sorry. You became sorry. You let yourself be broken down and built back up into someone new. Most people never do that. Most people don't get forced to by their sister." "True. I am pretty ruthless." We both laughed. 3 years after my sister lost everything, she graduated with her master's degree in social work. I attended the ceremony and cheered embarrassingly loud when her name was called. Mom and Dad were there too, in the cheap seats they could afford, crying with pride. At dinner afterward, my sister made a toast. "To my family," she said, "who taught me that rock bottom is just a foundation to build something better on. To second chances," Mom added. "To first chances," I corrected. "Because what we're building now is completely new." We clinked glasses. That night, my sister pulled me aside. "I got a job offer," she said. "At the shelter where I stayed. They want me to be their new program director. That's perfect for you. It doesn't pay much, less than I'd make at a private practice or hospital. But it feels right, you know? Going back to help the place that helped me. Then you should take it." "I am. I start next month." She paused. "I also wanted to ask you something." "What?" "The shelter is trying to raise money for renovations. Better showers, more beds, a proper kitchen. Would you be willing to make a donation? I'm not asking for me. I just know they need it." "How much do they need?" "About $200,000 to do everything they want." I thought about my bank account, about the money sitting there that I barely thought about anymore. "I'll write them a check for the full amount," I said. Her eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "Completely, but on one condition." "What?" "You can't tell them it's from me. Say it's from an anonymous donor. I don't need recognition." "Why anonymous?" "Because this isn't about me feeling good about myself. It's about making sure other women don't have to shower at a truck stop when they're at their lowest point." She hugged me then, hard and long. "Thank you," she whispered. "Not just for this. For everything, for giving me exactly what I deserved instead of what I wanted, for showing me who I could become if I was willing to do the work." "You did the work yourself," I said. "I just refused to take it away from you." The shelter renovation finished 6 months later. On the opening day, I went with my sister to see the new facilities. The women staying there had no idea I'd funded it. which was exactly how I wanted it. "This is amazing," one woman said to my sister. "Real showers with hot water, a kitchen where we can actually cook, beds that don't feel like prison cots. Whoever donated this money is an angel." My sister smiled. "They're not an angel. They're just someone who remembers what it's like." 5 years after that freezing January in my Honda Civic. 5 years after my sister refused to help me. 4 years after I refused to help her. My sister called with news. "I'm buying a house," she said. "Really? It's nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, needs work. But it's mine. Well, it will be mine in 30 years after I pay off the mortgage." "That's incredible. I'm proud of you. I want you to come see it before I close. Tell me if you think I'm making a mistake." I drove to the address she gave me. It was a small bungalow in a working-class neighborhood, with a chain-link fence and a yard full of weeds. The paint was peeling and the porch sagged slightly. My sister was waiting outside, practically bouncing with excitement. "I know it's not much," she said, "but it has good bones, and I can fix it up gradually." "It's perfect," I said honestly. "You mean that?" "I do, because it's yours. You earned it." We walked through together. The floors creaked. The kitchen was ancient. The bathroom had pink tile from the 1960s, but it was solid and it was hers. "The best part," she said, "is that it has 2 bedrooms. One for me and one for whoever needs it." "What do you mean?" "I mean, if someone calls me at midnight, broke and desperate, with nowhere to go, I'm going to have a room ready for them, because I know what it's like when no one will help." I felt my throat tighten. "That's really beautiful," I managed to say. "I learned from the best," she said, smiling. "You didn't just teach me a lesson 5 years ago. You taught me who I never want to be again, and more importantly, who I can choose to become instead." We stood in that empty house, 2 sisters who'd destroyed and rebuilt their relationship from nothing, and I realized something. The anger I'd carried for 5 years was completely gone. Not because she'd apologized enough or suffered enough or earned enough, but because she'd become someone new, someone I actually liked and respected. "I'm glad you called me that night," I said. She looked surprised. "Even though you were broke and desperate?" "Especially because of that. It forced us both to figure out who we really were when everything else was stripped away." "And who are we?" "Survivors," I said. "Both of us in different ways." She nodded. "I'll take that." 6 years after my sister refused to help me, 5 years after I refused to help her, we spent Thanksgiving in her little house with the creaky floors and outdated kitchen. She'd fixed it up slowly, room by room, doing most of the work herself. Mom and Dad came too, older and humbler than they used to be. We ate turkey and stuffing and pumpkin pie, and no one talked about who had money and who didn't, who was successful and who'd failed. We just talked. At one point, my sister raised her glass. "To family," she said, "who we choose to become for each other, not who we're forced to be by blood." "To second chances," Mom added. "To hard lessons," Dad said quietly. "To surviving," I finished. We drank together, 4 people who'd all failed each other in different ways and somehow found our way back. After dinner, my sister and I did dishes together in her tiny kitchen. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Always. That night 5 years ago when I turned you away, I didn't just ruin your life for a month. I ruined my own life forever." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I became someone I hated. Someone who valued comfort over compassion. Someone who could watch their sibling suffer and call it a life lesson. And I stayed that person until I lost everything and had to rebuild from scratch." She scrubbed a plate thoughtfully. "So when you refused to help me, you weren't just teaching me a lesson. You were giving me the only path back to being human again. And I'm grateful for that, even though it was hell." "You're welcome," I said, though I'm not sure I was being that noble. Mostly I was just angry and wanted you to hurt like I hurt. "I know, but it worked out the same in the end." It did. We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. 2 sisters who'd learned that sometimes the cruelest kindness is refusing to save someone from themselves. 7 years after sleeping in my Honda Civic, 6 years after my sister lost everything, we stood in my living room on Christmas morning, watching the sun rise through the windows. "Do you remember what you asked me that day you showed up at my door?" she asked. "Which part?" "You asked if I was sorry because I was in the same position, or if I was sorry because I understood what I did was wrong regardless of where we both ended up. I remember. I told you both, and it was true. But now looking back, I realized something else." "What?" "I was sorry for both those reasons, but I stayed sorry and became better for a third reason, which was because I saw who you became after surviving what I put you through. And I wanted to become that person too. Strong enough to build something from nothing, compassionate enough to help others without expecting anything back, secure enough to not need external validation. You showed me what was possible." I didn't know what to say to that. "I'm not trying to flatter you," she continued. "I'm just saying that refusing to help me was the greatest gift you could have given me, because it forced me to become someone I'm proud of, someone who can look in the mirror without flinching." "I'm proud of you too," I said. "Even though I was terrible to you, especially because you were terrible to me and chose to become better. Anyone can be good from the start. It takes real strength to be bad and then change." She wiped her eyes. "When did you get so wise?" "Probably during those freezing nights in my car thinking about how my sister was in Cabo drinking margaritas." We both laughed. "Too soon?" I asked. "No," she said. "It's been long enough. We can laugh about it now." And we did. We laughed about all of it. The Honda Civic, the shelter, the extended stay motel, the Dave Ramsey links, the angry phone calls, the years of hurt and healing. We laughed until we cried, and then we cried until we laughed again, and somewhere in that cycle, we let go of the last bits of pain we'd been carrying. 8 years after I lost everything, 7 years after my sister refused to help me, 6 years after I refused to help her, we were different people living different lives and being better to each other because of it. My sister called me from the shelter where she worked. "We have a situation," she said. There's a woman here about your age who lost her tech job and her apartment in the same week. She's sleeping in her car. She reminds me so much of you 8 years ago that it's scary. What does she need? A chance. Just a chance to get back on her feet without someone judging her for falling in the first place. Send me her information, I said. I'll hire her as a contractor for my company. 3 months guaranteed, decent pay, remote work so she can do it from the library if she needs to. After that, we'll see if it's a good fit for something permanent. Just like that? Just like that. You know, most people who survive what you survived would just want to forget it ever happened. But you keep finding ways to help people in the same situation. That's because I remember what I needed wasn't just money. It was someone believing I could do it. Someone giving me a real chance instead of charity or judgment. That's exactly what this woman needs. Then that's what she'll get. 3 months later, that woman wasn't just still employed. She was thriving. She'd found an apartment, paid off some debts, and was rebuilding her life. She sent me a thank you card that said simply, "You gave me a chance when I was invisible." I'll never forget that. I showed it to my sister at our weekly coffee meetup. "That's beautiful," she said. "It's what you should have given me 8 years ago." She nodded. "You're right, but I'm giving it to people now. We both are. Maybe that's worth something." "It is," I agreed. "It doesn't erase the past, but it builds something better for the future. That's all we can do, isn't it? Be better than we were." It's enough. 10 years after I lost everything, 9 years after my sister refused to help me, 8 years after I refused to help her, we sat together at my kitchen table, drinking coffee and talking about nothing important. "Do you ever wish things had happened differently?" she asked suddenly. "In what way?" "That I'd helped you when you asked, that we'd skipped all the pain and anger and just stayed close." I thought about that for a long time. "No," I said finally, "because then we'd still be the people we were before. You'd still be someone who valued comfort over compassion. I'd still be someone who hadn't been tested. We'd be comfortable and complacent, and probably miserable in ways we wouldn't even recognize. So, you're glad it happened?" "I'm glad who we became because it happened. The journey was awful, but the destination is pretty good." She smiled. "That's such a you answer. Making tragedy sound like a gift. It wasn't a gift. It was hell. But we made something good from it anyway, which is different." "I love you," she said suddenly. "I don't think I've said that enough." "I love you too," I replied. "Even though you let me freeze in my car." "Even though I let you freeze in your car," she agreed. "And even though you made me live in a roach motel, especially because I made you live in a roach motel." We raised our coffee cups in a mock toast, two sisters who'd hurt each other and healed each other and become better because of both. The present day, I'm sitting in my office when my phone rings. It's my sister. "I need to tell you something," she says. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right, actually. I just got offered the director position at a women's shelter network. It oversees 12 shelters across 3 states. It's a huge job with huge responsibilities." "That's incredible." "It is. But it pays less than I make now, and the hours will be brutal, and I'll be dealing with tragedy every single day." "But you're going to take it?" "I already accepted," she says, "because I keep thinking about that woman who slept in my old bed at the shelter, and the one after her, and how someone needs to fight for them the way no one fought for us when we needed it. You're going to be amazing at this. I learned from the best," she says. "You taught me that refusing to enable someone isn't the same as refusing to care, and that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is force them to find their own strength." "You taught me something too," I say. "What's that?" "That people can change. That being cruel once doesn't mean being cruel forever. That redemption is real if someone's willing to do the work." "We both did the work," she says. "Yeah, I agree. We did." After we hang up, I sit in my office thinking about how strange life is, how the worst thing that ever happened to me led to the best version of myself, how refusing to help my sister was simultaneously the cruelest and kindest thing I could have done, how sometimes being broken is the only way to rebuild yourself into something stronger. My sister and I talk every week now. We're real with each other in a way we never were before. No pretense, no judgment, no scorekeeping. Just 2 people who survived their own destructions and chose to build something better from the rubble. Is our relationship perfect? No. Do I sometimes still feel a flash of anger when I remember that freezing January? Yes. Does she sometimes still feel shame about the person she was? Absolutely. But we're honest about it. We acknowledge the hurt instead of pretending it never happened. And slowly, year by year, we're building something that might actually be better than what we had before we broke everything. Because the truth is, sometimes things need to break completely before you can put them back together right. Sometimes the only way forward is through the worst thing you can imagine. Sometimes refusing to save someone is the only way to help them save themselves. And sometimes, just sometimes, the cruelest thing you can do to someone is also the kindest. My sister taught me that when she refused to help me. I taught it back to her when I did the same. And now we both know it, carry it, live it. Not because we're vindictive or heartless, but because we understand something most people never learn. That true compassion sometimes looks like cruelty. That real love sometimes requires letting someone struggle. And that the greatest gift you can give someone isn't money or shelter or comfort. It's the chance to discover their own strength, even if they have to freeze in a car to find it, even if they have to live in a roach motel to understand it, even if it takes years of pain and healing and hard conversations to finally arrive at something real. We did all of that. We survived all of that. And here we are on the other side. 2 sisters who destroyed each other and rebuilt each other and became better people because we refused to take the easy path. I wouldn't change a thing. Neither would she. And that's how we both know we finally got it right.